In the evening, in a quiet house, a family consisting of a father, a mother, and their teenage daughter sat tied to spaced-out chairs, their hands bound tightly behind their backs. Silence dominated the place, broken only by the sound of running water in the kitchen, where the lady of the house stood washing a knife, its blade gleaming under the water stream, stained with blood that hadn't yet dried. She was whistling a soft, steady tune, as if performing a routine task. As soon as she finished washing the knife, she turned towards the tied-up family, walking with calm steps and a cold smile on her face. Parallel to the daughter's chair, the basement door shook violently, opening and slamming shut forcefully, punctuated by the sharp sound of scratching as nails hit the wooden door from the inside. The daughter's trembling scream rose, mingling with the shaking of the chairs under their tense bodies. Father, in a trembling voice, "What is that sound?" Woman, with a cold smile, "You're about to find out." She advanced towards him with steady steps, grabbed his bound shoulder, then pushed the basement door, which emitted a heavy creak. She plunged the knife into his chest with a sharp thrust before pushing him, causing him to fall and roll inside. Daughter, screaming in panic. "Dad!" Inside the basement, darkness engulfed the place. Only the father's panting breaths could be heard as he turned his head, trying to adjust to the dark. But suddenly, the sound of rapid movement echoed around him. Before he could comprehend it, he felt something grabbing him violently, pulling him deeper inside. His terrified scream echoed in the void. Then silence fell. A few minutes later, the father's head rolled out from the basement. His eyes and tongue had been torn out, and his cheeks were split with deep scratches extending from below his eye sockets down to his chin. The woman, looking at the daughter with a wide smile. "Your turn, my dear." She grabbed the daughter's hair violently and pulled her towards the basement opening, throwing her into the same darkness. The wife followed her immediately after, without batting an eye. Inside the basement, the daughter slowly got up, looking around in the dark while a choking, foul smell filled the place, mixed with the dampness of the ancient walls. Then the sound of rapid running echoed around. She turned with terrified eyes to see her father's body lying on the ground, headless and drenched in blood. Her tears streamed down in silent horror before the scene was interrupted by a decaying arm covered in dirt and remnants of rotting skin reaching out from the shadows to grab the corpse and slowly pull it towards the darkness. The sound of cracking bones rose, interwoven with the sound of tearing flesh in a grotesque scene. The mother, however, rose with desperate courage and rushed towards the wooden ladder, climbing it quickly until she reached the top of the basement. She saw the woman, who raised the knife and plunged it directly into her face, then twisted the blade violently inside the flesh until the mother screamed and fell, staggering downward.
The daughter looked at her mother with tearful eyes, then rushed towards her, kneeling beside her, watching as she tried to get up, but her exhausted body wouldn't obey. "Mother," in a broken, trembling voice. "Sally, I'm sorry." She didn't finish her words as deformed hands rushed from the darkness, grabbed her forcibly, and dragged her into the deep darkness. Then the sound of tearing flesh echoed, accompanied by the grinding of bones being gnawed, while the mother's screams gradually faded. Sally screamed in despair, "Get me out of here!" But suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her foot. She screamed and looked down to find a strange-featured creature, its eyes sunken in the darkness, and prominent yellow teeth dripping with blood. Before she could retreat, it placed its bony hands on her mouth, then tore her neck forcefully, causing blood to flow onto her chest as her eyes widened in final shock before she fell motionless. 3 days later. Mark, panting, looking behind. "Come on! Run! Run towards that house!" Jesse. "Got it!" The 5 of them rushed with hurried steps, panting from the intense running, until they reached the old house and forcibly broke through its wooden door. They scattered inside, checking the rooms, but found no trace of anyone. Allah, wiping his sweat, looking around. "We need to hide here. The police won't find us." Zane. "Yes, I agree." Marita, worried. "But what if the homeowners come?" Zane, coldly. "We'll take care of them." Jessie went to the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and washed her face with cold water, then walked quietly between the rooms. She stopped in front of one room, pushed its door slowly, and found its wall adorned with a frame holding a picture of a woman in her 60s, smiling an enigmatic smile that didn't reach her eyes.
Meanwhile, Allah was peering cautiously out the window and saw a police car slowly passing in front of the house. He hurried away from the window and bent down to hide, but a golden necklace in his pocket slipped out and fell near the basement door. Just as he picked it up, the sound of heavy metal screeching was heard. The basement door opened by itself. Then, a pale hand extended from the darkness, slowly pulling the necklace inside before the door closed again with a muffled sound. Allah took a quick look around, then grabbed the basement door handle and pushed it slowly. He turned on his flashlight and began descending the rickety wooden stairs with cautious steps, holding his hand over his nose due to the choking smell rising towards him. Allah said, whispering in disgust, "Damn, what's that foul smell?" On the last step, his foot slipped slightly. The flashlight fell from his hand, rolling on the rough ground while its light swayed left and right until it stopped on a vague figure sitting in the darkness. The sound of a faint laugh echoed, and 2 eyes gleamed strangely under the light's reflection. Suddenly, the creature lunged at Allah, trying to sink its teeth into his neck, but Allah pushed its head away forcefully. Allah said in a panicked voice, "Who are you?" At that moment, upstairs, Zane and Mark were sitting in front of the TV, engrossed in a program, when a police car stopped in front of the house. Meanwhile, the woman, the homeowner, had appeared on the doorstep at the exact moment the police arrived. The woman took the house key from her coat pocket, then placed her hand on the door handle before her movement was interrupted by a voice from behind. "Police officer, excuse me, ma'am." Woman, turning slowly. "What is it?" Police officer, "Have you seen these people?" Meanwhile, deep in the basement, Allah was running up the stairs with confused steps, but his foot caught on one of the steps, causing him to fall on his stomach. Before he could get up, the creature lunged from the darkness, grabbed his ankle, then bent down to sink its sharp teeth into his back. Allah's scream rose, echoing throughout the house.
With a savage bite, the creature tore a part of his neck, warm blood gushing onto the wood. Allah tried to push it away with his foot with all his remaining strength, managing to free himself. He rushed up the steps this time until he reached the upper floor, his body riddled with wounds, swaying. He rushed towards Mark and Zane, who were still sitting in front of the TV, their eyes widening at the sight of him. Allah, in a hoarse, panting voice, "Help me!" Before he could finish, his body collapsed to the ground, blood seeping from his neck, forming a small pool under his head. Meanwhile, Jessie was wandering around the house until she stopped in front of the homeowner's bedroom. She pushed the door and entered cautiously, her eyes falling again on the picture of the same woman hanging on the mirrors in the same suspicious pose as in the previous picture. Jessie approached a small closet and opened its drawers, finding bundles of money and some shiny jewelry inside. She quickly picked them up and stuffed them into her pocket. The woman, in a steady voice from behind her, "If I were you, I wouldn't do that." Jessie froze in place, then turned slowly to see the woman standing at the door threshold, her face covered in blood, her eyes gleaming with a deadly coldness. Before Jessie could scream, the woman pulled out a black pistol and fired a shot directly into her leg. Jessie fell to the ground, screaming in pain. The woman advanced with calm steps, grabbed Jessie by the arm and started dragging her on the floor until she placed her next to her stunned friends. Then she turned,
pulled the police officer's corpse and threw it into the basement, followed by Allah's still bleeding body. What a mess. The woman left for the kitchen with calm steps, leaving the basement door open wide. From the thick darkness below, something began to move, the sound of its rough feet scraping against the ground rising. Suddenly, a huge, pale, decaying hand shot out from the basement opening, grabbing Zane's ankle with an iron grip before the creature violently dragged him down. Zane's desperate scream rose for a few short seconds, then suddenly cut off, replaced by the horrifying sound of bones cracking.
In the darkness, the creature pressed its jaw against Zane's shoulder until it dislocated it from the joint before starting to devour it while drops of blood fell onto the wood. Marita, in a trembling voice, "What is that thing? What's in the basement?" Mark, calm down. Mark managed to free his hands from the restraints with difficulty, then untied Marita. But before he could catch his breath, the woman suddenly appeared, swinging the knife at him. Mark grabbed her wrist, and a short struggle ensued between them, ending with them both falling into the basement. Down below, the creature was still hunched over Allah's body, devouring what remained of him, while remnants of blood and flesh fell from its mouth. Then Mark slowly got up, picked up the knife from the ground, and violently grabbed the woman by the collar. Mark said, "Who the hell are you?" The woman said, "My daughter, help me." But suddenly the creature turned towards the woman's voice, a piece of flesh falling from its mouth, before lunging at Mark with unnatural speed. It sank its long pointed nails into the back of his neck. Warm blood gushed onto his shoulders before it threw him to the ground forcefully. At that moment, Marita appeared at the basement opening. She raised the pistol and fired at the creature, but the bullets hit the darkness as it completely vanished from sight. Suddenly, it materialized behind her, encircling her neck with its palms, squeezing with all its might until her voice choked and her breath was cut off. Upstairs, Jessie had fallen to the ground from the pain in her leg. She grabbed her trembling phone and quickly pressed the numbers. Jessie said, "Help me." The pistol slipped from Marita's hand. Mark lunged for it and quickly picked it up, then aimed at the creature's head and fired a deafening shot that pierced its skull. Its heavy body fell to the ground, convulsing. Mark extended his hand to help Marita up. Then they walked together towards the stairs and ascended with frantic steps, blood still staining their clothes. Upon reaching the top, Mark took a cigarette from his pocket, lit it with a trembling hand, then exhaled smoke before throwing it into the open basement. Meanwhile, Marita was searching through the drawers until she found a metal canister. She opened its cap, smelled its pungent odor, then hurried with it to Mark. They exchanged brief glances before pouring its contents into the basement, the smell of fuel spreading through the place. Suddenly, the woman launched from the darkness, running madly up the stairs towards them, her hair disheveled and face covered in blood, screaming incomprehensible words. Mark coldly doused her with fuel, then raised the pistol and fired a shot that pierced her forehead directly. Her body fell, rolling down the stairs, and the next moment tongues of flame engulfed her, her final screams disappearing within thick black smoke. Mark slammed the basement door shut forcefully, then turned around, panting. "Help me up!" Jessie cries, her voice straining as she tries to get up. "Sorry, dear." She slowly extended her hand, took the pistol from Mark, aimed it at Jessie's trembling head, and pulled the trigger. The phone fell from Jessie's hand, and the sound of the gunshot echoed through the empty house. Marita threw the pistol aside, then bent down and kissed Mark on the mouth, as if bidding farewell to a world that had just ended. Together, they left the house, which was now being consumed by tongues of fire. They got into the police car, and Mark started the engine. The car sped off into the dark road,
leaving the house burning behind them like an open hell, swallowing all its remaining secrets. And as the car moved away into the depth of the dark road, and the flames still consumed the old house, a heavy silence fell over the place. Smoke rose from the shattered windows, and the screams of combustion filled the air. But after a short while, a sinister metallic sound echoed from inside the house. The basement door shook from within several times, then slowly opened, thick smoke and the smell of burnt flesh rising from it. And from within the darkness, the creature emerged with heavy steps, its skin blackened from the flames, its eyes glowing with a dark red color. It raised its head towards the external darkness and exhaled heavy breaths before taking a new step outside the basement.